Hello, everyone. Blue Star Saber here with
Who else but Mangareader?
yes, as we're back just a while after our last stream to this time to discuss what everyone expects from us, My Hero Academia.
Hooray!
Yes, the 370th chapter, History, or as I like to subtitle it as My Hero Academia Goes X-Men with Mutant Revolution.
That's a
Which
tongue twister.
Yeah, which to be fair, that I'm saying out loud, I could have probably gone with a much quicker. I should have probably just gone My Hero Academia goes X Men.
Tisk tisk tisk.
Let's see,
M
but yeah,
MHAGXWMR.
yeah. Let's see, yeah, probably that. Who knows? Maybe I'll just shorten it to. Maybe maybe I'll come back and edit this title as MHA goes X Men. Or let's see, or goes MAH goes X Men with Mutant Revolution. But before people get an idea of what we're probably have an idea of what this context of this chapter is, we might as well get into the summary of this as we're following up from last week's chapter where Midoriya appears to be defeating Shigaraki, but somehow it seems like Shigaraki's gotten Spinner's attention and he's about to do something. Was that was our analysis on that correct, or is it just Koei is just switching to Spinner to deal with whatever he is doing right now? Well,
that I wouldn't know, but is that a rhetorical question?
it can be if it makes it easier for you.
Whatever makes it easier for me. I mean, he did immediately say, at least in this case, that this is a earlier. This is a flashback to earlier. So
fair enough. But yeah,
he says this. He says this in the chapter. I'm just going by what the words in front of me tell me.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, on to the actual chapter 370's history.
Yep.
We got back to a flashback of Spinner's past, where he's being prejudiced for being, being a lizard person, pretty much. People are saying that his blood is dirty and all that stuff. And then think about how no matter how much society progresses, there will never exist, or at least someone's saying how no matter how much society progresses, they'll never accept people like, Spinner. As we cut to a close-up of Spinner in his current face with all his hulking out mode, if you will. But like you said, this is turning back the clock a bit after Darby's first defeat in the hospital.
Yep.
We end up learning where Spinner is right now is the fact that he's going after Kurogiri from the hospital that he's being held up and all that stuff. Given the fact that he's the closest to a masterpiece of all the high ends within the Biogeny and Nomu series. And that All For One learned that the very entity was held apparently in the hospital where they are nearby. So he sent Spinner and his lieutenants in the Paranormal Liberation Army of the leading a small army of the PLF dregs. As well as ordinary citizens who sympathize with their cause. There's apparently adding up to a total of 15,000 just to get back Kurogiri. And we can see as we see the sort of battle going forth between them, and apparently the ones who are fighting back are remaining heroes of police squad, only add up to 200. With and we have and among those 200 is present Mike, who's just commenting about how Spinner seems to be pretty popular. Are you thinking about his real name, or no? Actually, it's thinking of his old childhood friend Kurogiri. I think my mistake, because I think that's what his actual name is. Sorry, I just don't remember the name of his friend too much. But yeah, he's arguably there to try and prevent them from kidnapping the remains of his now Nomu friend. President Mike uses one of his moves called Loud Out Shout, apparently to do enough damage to the heroes, but apparently one of the more muscular, mutant-like, villains or members of the paranormal army ends up using himself as a meat shield to cover many of his allies. As this devil-like one tries to stab President Mike, but he ends up being saved by, I believe, Anima. You know, the one that can talk to animals amongst Class 1A.
No, I wouldn't have ever thought that with the name.
Yeah, and him asking where Tentacoil, with President Mike asking where Tentacoil is. Sorry, apologies. I should have realized you would have noticed that.
Yeah.
I'm being silly here. Let's see, but he tells President Mike that they got separated in all the chaos. Let's see. And we see some of the police fighting the thing, saying how squad leader, there's too many of them and they're needing backup. But I think what appears to be, I think, the gorilla cop that we might have saw at some point in My Hero Academia before or not. I don't know. I remember there was a gorilla police officer among all the police, but I just can't remember when.
Thought it was at Kuroguri's prison cell, but
Oh, yeah. Might have been that then. Yeah, that's probably it then.
It was someone's prison cell. I know you're not mistaken. I just don't quite remember the chapter. And since they don't let us go back and read these for free, I'd have to go do it. Anyway.
Yeah, with the volumes or read it online.
Yeah, somewhere.
But given the fact that we review this, we like to try and do it professionally with the Fizz chapters.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't own all whatever volumes there are of My Hero Academia.
Currently, I have a total of 31 volumes, and I think there's around at least 36 to 38 right now.
Yeah, it makes sense.
No, granted, but I could be wrong on that number, but definitely in the 30s right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah. So let's see. But it seems that the villains are now starting to split up the heroes and isolating them, as we see with I believe the hero Lock, the one that can lock.
Yeah. Rock, yep.
Yeah, arguably one of the people of color that's not Japanese, or at least non-Japanese heroes in Japan, from what I can tell.
Yep.
So I'm trying to find the right wording for that. I think I made it worse.
No, you made it worse.
Yeah, I did. I apologize for my non-political correctness there.
You fool!
But yeah, he's getting mobbed by a bunch of rioters and all that stuff. And they're all shouting about, telling him to shut up and saying how they're not rioters. Let's see, as they end up saying how humans like them just don't understand what they've gone through and all that stuff. And you hear some sort of quote about trample them, move it, make way. And then they start to attack Anima. Telling him to stand aside. And eventually, they end up pulling his mask, and he ends up asking them telling him to stop this and asking why to do this. And then he says, apparently, and the one with the beak says, "So you were raised in the big city, were you?" Telling Anima that he's a traitor to their kind.
Yep.
As we see a bit more of the battle of the pushing through and all that stuff, we end up seeing one of the lieutenants from the sort of one of the chapters before the war arc, if you will. The one that one of the ones that that had all the spinner posters, the one that was focusing on the villains.
Yep.
You remember that one?
Yep.
As he tells the citizens to rage on, and this is their Independence Day and all that stuff. As he goes on about all the stuff like quirk counseling, quirk education, nothing but phony nonsense and all that stuff. Because they know it all too well because of the forms they bear. As we see more of the battlefield of them taking out heroes and police and all that stuff. As they go let's see, the 6/6 incident or the Great Jeddah Purge. Now, depending on which translation, they said the Order 66 or the Great Jedi Purge.
Right.
Star Wars reference and my favorite type, Revenge of the Sith. But yeah, they go about how the history of the paranormal is one of pure persecution and oppression for those who don't fit the mold. And we get a bit of a flashback, apparently, that there are those who use the excuse to join, let's see, in the slaughter of their kind just because they gave them the creeps, extremist groups that just don't like these people for their appearances and all that stuff. And even though they talk about how society has reflected and made amends, as we see the principal, the dog, let's see, chief of police from, I think, Hozu City, and of course the gorilla one we've seen there.
Yep.
And even, I think, below, we see a regular human person talking to someone that looks like a mouse, saying that, okay, they say, oh, progress has been made, but so they made you believe.
Mm-hmm.
But this is apparently only in the cities and metropolitan areas where they talk about where the discrimination was just a thing in the past. But if you take a look, you belong to cities, and you should see you still, and it turns out it's still there. They should see the work, and it turns out in like the towns and rural towns and commuter cities and all that stuff, at least the towns and villages outside the cities, they still have prejudice where people give them the creeps and all that stuff.
Right.
And apparently how the light never shone on them in those days, so not even the brightest light could, shone on it and all that stuff, so yeah. And they think, and then goes on about how, if only I weren't born looking like this, with this quirk, have you ever people thought that once? As we start to see more of the heroes, like some of the heroes we've seen before, like, Locke and Animan fighting back while dealing with these shouts. Let's see, as he declares that these heroes are no heroes of theirs, or people like that, and they have a flag of Spinner saying, Spinner speaks for us, saying that instead it will be Spinner who will lead them to promise to society. But we see, of course, Spinner's like sort of drooling and raging and all that stuff. And it turns out that he has no idea what everyone's saying, due to the fact that ever since All for One gave him his new quirks, let's see, his head's getting all fuzzy and all that stuff. Let's see, as Lieutenant ends up asking what, let's see, tells the Spinner to say what there needs to be said, and he just says just whatever and just says, take back Kurogiri. But just as he's doing that, he ends up being attacked by Tentacle using a move called Octoblow. Let's see, and some of the villains notice this, including the Lieutenant. And many of them outraged, telling him to kill this traitor and all that stuff. And let's see, as Tentacle is being beaten up by them and all that stuff. He then starts to ask him, what would any of this do good if they just go up attacking hospitals and all that stuff? As he tells them that which seems to puzzle some of the villains, and ends up saying how back in Jakku, the first thing the heroes did was take action and make sure that all the patients were safe and all that stuff. And he ends up asking what you guys actually plan on doing, as we then cut to a bit of a flashback to Ritzy, and it reveals that instead of the flashback possibly being Spinner, I think, at the beginning, it's actually, there's actually Spinner's flashback, I think. Let's see, but it might also reveal that Tentacle has the same flashback. There could actually be his flashback from the beginning. Let's see.
They both have
So
kind of the same hairstyle, but yeah.
yeah, it's kind of hard to tell really, but yeah, but you could easily tell it's either him or it could either be him or just both of them.
Based on the scenery, though, it's definitely looking like it's Tanakoil or
Yeah. So
Koji for sure. Or yeah, Senji,
yeah,
Soji.
yeah. I will admit, let's see, looking back on it, I think I might have just gone confused just because of the gecko lizard there that makes you imply that it's Spinner.
I think, well, yeah, it's supposed to make it look
Yeah.
like that, but
Yeah, so yeah, Koei's done a red herring that I've fallen for.
you fell for it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose I'll give props to Koei. He actually knows how to do a red herring.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it really mattered per se, but
Yeah.
we've already seen spinners.
Prejudiced against him.
Yeah, a little bit. So
Yeah. But as Tentacle ends up blasting all these let's see, villains off him, he ends up telling the two Spinner and Lieutenant that let's see, you better telling them they better, because if not, he won't let this stand and he won't forgive them for just causing absolute chaos without a long-term goal or cause and all that stuff.
well, he's wanting to know what their plan is to raid the
Yeah.
hospital.
Yeah. Yeah. If you did like plan to harm civilians, he won't forgive them.
Yeah.
Ending the chapter. So, Mangareader, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm sure a lot of our fan base is probably 50-50 on this chapter in terms of how
to interpret it.
yeah.
But this definitely feels like but this is probably arguably why I've said My Hero Academia has gone full on X-Men with this mutant revolution.
Well, yours is probably the thing that, yeah, your take is definitely a little different than what I think a majority of the internet's take was.
Yeah, but this definitely feels like Koei's going a bit X-Men here with like a.
Well, it's always kind of been X-Men like.
Yeah, I mean Koei is a Marvel fan, as a superhero fan, and Marvel fan in particular, so it's not surprising that it does, but all that stuff. But yeah,
but just the talks of an inner city and outer city could definitely
be
something completely different than what you're trying to make it out to be. But we are not. Well, I mean, I would cover it, but I know.
Yeah, but I feel like
we're a little different in those situations. So,
but yeah, I do definitely say that it gives me that might be where the idea from. But I will admit the comments about the cities and the village, that does remind me a lot about what is often discussed with politics today and the political climate, where you have apparently people in the cities more diverse and more accepting of arguably social liberal, if you will, while the places outside the cities, the towns, the rural areas are being a bit more, let's say, social conservative, if you will, on certain issues.
Social conservative. It's actually not too far from, yeah.
Let's see. Arguably, that you could say that's going on with, like, say, America right now. Let's see, and arguably even to an extent here in the UK, with like, especially when it came to like an issue with Brexit,
right?
Because if you looked at like the Leave and Remain referendum, you find that the places that heavily voted Remain were like the City of London, city as well as cities around the United Kingdom, but more of the let's see, local towns and rural areas voted to leave the UK. Well, I would also say that all of Scotland voted to remain in the UK voted to remain in the EU as well.
Right.
Yeah, but so it's so that kind of like let's see, sort of like community or class divide, if you will, between the city folk and the non-city folk, if you will.
Yep.
When it comes to these issues. Yeah, so it's clearly that. I'm not sure if it's the same case in Japan, because as like I probably mentioned a few times before, as far as I know, Japan politics, it's always the liberal Democrats that govern or end up winning the general elections in Japan thing and all that stuff. And Contrary to what their name might say, it is a conservative party.
Yeah. Yep.
Granted, a conservative party, from my understanding, with a very varied, broad church of, let's see, your moderate conservatives, your liberal conservatives, your national conservatives, sort of like that. Apparently, one of my friends has said maybe even having some social democrats in of all places, but those are probably more of a small minority, really. But yeah,
Yep.
but yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure if let's see, it's the same case in Japan where the cities are more tolerant of social liberal things, while the more rural outplaces are more socially conservative. Though I know, I mean, I have heard that Japan is not exactly the best place with diversity and all that stuff, or let's see, having foreigners come into work.
Yeah.
At least, but yeah, at least from what I've seen in some YouTube videos and from what I've been talking about. But yeah, I have never gone to Japan, so I can't say myself. So I don't want to say bad things about a country that I'm not entirely an expert on, or I have limited knowledge on. But yeah.
Yeah.
Which I know it's kind of ironic because, well, we're reviewing Japanese manga right now.
Yep.
But this does definitely feels like Koei is doing some modern world political commentary here.
He always does do things, whether or not people are a fan of him or not.
Yeah. But I guess it does kind of just shows that despite what some people say, oh, manga never tackles these political commentary stuff compared to, like, say, US comics now. They probably just do, but they're probably just not as in your face as the US comics have become more infamously known for.
Yeah, it's probably true.
Yeah. Or it's just become a lot more, or you could argue a lot more noticeable.
Yep.
But yeah, but I suppose, to be fair, I think the internet, it's just made it just generally more noticeable. Let's see. I even argue probably even some more older stories have probably do have some of that commentary. And given the fact that the X-Men sort of dealt with this kind of thing between prejudice between like normal humans and like humans who are mutants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely say that. Yeah, this is probably fit in and all that stuff. Yeah, I have to admit, it is kind of interesting that Koei has now finally seemed to be sort of tackling the issue. Granted, he has been slowly building it up. Let's see, if you will. I mean, arguably the first time he sort of referenced it was in the Meta Liberation Army arc, where when you had like the League of Villains fighting those cultists who were disgusted by Spinner's appearance and all that stuff. Which, unfortunately, the anime cut that bit out from like the manga adaptation. But yeah. And then, of course, I think you had a little bit of it when like a Spinner was fighting against that political member of that Meta Liberation Army. Though, granted, that led to nowhere, really. And then, of course, you had like, of course, that chapter building up to it with like what All for One plans to do with Spinner and all that stuff, with him being the figurehead of this sort of paranormal movement. So we do have that. So it's like building up with that. And it seems that now we know why we have Tentacoil and Anima fighting Spinner, because it's like Koei's doing the theme about those who've been too oppressed and those who have not really suffered the oppressed, but similar to them, but on the hero side. Though, granted, as we've seen, Tentacoil is actually the one that has also experienced similar prejudice to Spinner, but despite that, he still strives to be a hero and try and does good things and all that stuff. So yeah. So arguably, this chapter and the themes of it is dealing with prejudice and how to best handle it, or at least fight it will. Granted, I will admit, I do wish that characters like Anima and Tentacoil were a bit more developed, so there'd be a bit more impact in this fight, if you will. Let's see. Granted, granted, don't get me wrong. I'm finally glad that Koei is doing something with these characters. I just kind of feel like perhaps they could have built up to this a bit better, if you will.
A bit better.
Sorry, what?
I said a bit better.
Yeah. Granted, of like all the non-humanoid heroes, the one amongst Class 1A, the one that's been most developed, of course, is Tokoyami, with his Dark Shadow and all that stuff. Given the fact that arguably, besides Bakugo, Midoriya, and Shoto, he's arguably the strongest member of Class 1A.
I'm always curious. I don't think we've really seen his backstory, but I'm curious if Black Shadow is the reason he kind of has like his bird-like features, or if his parents are like, like if one of his parents like could manipulate shadows, and one of his parents was like literally the Animorph, or whatever you want to, whatever the thing is called.
Yeah, that
would be interesting to know. Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. But I guess due to the fact that Hawks is his mentor, he's rather dealing with that plot line, which is involved with like Endeavor's lot going up against All for One and all that stuff. So Koei's using the two others that he can best deal with.
Yeah, that's true.
But other than that, I do like the fact that we now got confirmation on who else is on this battlefield against Spinner's lot, and which it's Present Mike. Let's see, Locke, and apparently the gorilla policeman and all that stuff. But
God damn it, man!
Oh, sorry. What? Rocklock?
Rocklock.
Yeah, sorry. I just guess I just gave him a nickname unintentionally. But this definitely does feel like this battle here definitely does feel like an actual war zone.
Yep.
Well, okay, granted, they all do feel like war zones, but this one feels like probably the biggest war zone. Given the fact that we've got a confirmation of, on one side, 15,000, and the other side, 200.
Oh, dear Lord, it's just a bunch of fodder, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it's all fodder, though, granted. A lot more, a bit more creative fodder, because it's all the non-humanoid villains.
Yeah.
Against some of the heroes and the police. So it's like, yeah. Now, still, I do think that, Koei, don't you think you're giving too much of a disadvantage on one side here?
Yeah, those numbers are definitely not in favor.
Yeah. At the very least, I'd figured you should at least give the hero side at least 2,000. Even if it's not like, okay, just 200 heroes and about 1,800 police officers. Or even like, let's see, a bit mix of police officers and military. But other than that, I do like the fact that we've gotten like a confirmation that, okay, the reason why Spinner's in this area is because he's been tasked with a mission to rescue Kurogiri. Which I suppose makes sense, given the fact that his teleporting abilities is the most useful amongst the bad guys.
Yep.
Given the fact that they can teleport anywhere. And also, given the fact that he has villains trying to rescue Gigamakia. Let's see. It figures he'd send people to go rescue Kurogiri, which is also probably makes sense why Present Mike is in that location as well, because he's trying to prevent his friend's corpse from being used by the villains again, when they've been having some progress with them trying to bring back their friend. Or sort of progress. I don't know. I think but it had some progress, but I think it's not working right now. But yeah. So there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd definitely say It is kind of, but yeah. So, but it is kind of interesting just to see how the likes of Anima and let's see is sort of dealing with against his let's see fellow non-humanoid let's see quirk users as like he's like saying like why are you all doing this, but he's being regarded as a traitor because he's on the human side, if you will. In many ways, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Fisherman Island arc in which he dealt with like the new fisherman pirates, and you had like the villain there regard Jinbei as a traitor because he's fighting alongside the not only humans but the same humans that took down Arlong, his sworn brother, when they were both sun pirates.
Right.
So yeah, but there's like that, but yeah. But let's see. But one thing to note that it seems that at the moment it's this sort of spider-like lieutenant thing that is mainly being the one that's commanding thing because because from what we can see with Spinner, well, he's arguably amongst the League of Villains best person suited to lead this thing, but given the fact that All For One gave him too many quirks that don't fit with him, he's become a bit more like the Nomu in terms of thinking.
I don't know if I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how many gave him. Maybe 2, like a strength inducer and a size increaser.
Yeah. Let's see. We get an idea of what quirks he's been given, I think, next chapter, but it's not officially out yet. I'm just going to spoil that, but yeah.
Oh, goody. Well, but, you knew they wouldn't exactly go through the entire thing without at least telling us what he got. So
yeah. But this of course definitely follows up with what All Might told me long ago about how some of the quirks All For One gave to others didn't quite match and they became mindless puppets and all that stuff, like Nomu. So I do like that, but it seems like this ends up being the consequences of like All For One's transferring of quirks. Granted, as a result, Spinner cannot think straight thing, and it can only just do simple commands, and which is like, take back Kurogiri, even though he's supposed to be, be the head of this thing, but it's like, he's barely got a mind of his own now, and if that ends up being revealed to like the Ritzy followers, that might cause their side some problems and all that stuff. So yeah, this is probably arguably how they get taken down a bit. But of course, there's also the fact that it seems that the star of the show for this fight is going to be, of course, Tentacoil. Were you a bit surprised when that happened?
No, they had already kind of hinted this way back when we last saw Spinner at all. We had Tentacoil in front of.
Yeah, we know it was on this fight, but did you expect him to be the main point of view of this fight?
At this point, probably. Now that we knew what the thing behind it was, the idea behind it, I didn't exactly think Present Mike would be the one because he didn't exactly have too much going on with the League of Villains.
But yeah. I do like how it's like you mentioned earlier with the red herring. Koei does it, making you think it's Spinner, but in fact it's actually him who has dealt with Tentacore, who's dealt with this prejudice. Instead, is still able to be a hero, and we finally actually see him being unmasked, and we see that his face is filled with scars and all that stuff. And I do like the fact that he asked them the question. Given the one difference between them and the heroes is they evacuated people from the hospital first. Are they going to do that themselves? And from the way they've been behaving, I'd say no.
So most likely not. They're just going to charge in there.
And of course,
but that's why he knew. But yeah.
So yeah, you're saying I'll never forgive you for doing this. But yeah, and this is arguably how he's probably going to win the moral argument by being, despite his prejudice, Ritzy rises above it and still acts like a hero. that's actually thing and all that stuff. But yeah. So yeah. So any other thoughts you want to say? What else did you like in this chapter?
I mean, I can't really think of anything else to add to that. Unless you have something to add.
Well, other than that, I suppose I could talk about some of the moves that have been used, but I think we've seen them before.
More than likely.
But yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe the Octo thing wasn't per se.
But yeah, I will admit this is probably arguably not what I expected to see in this follow-up chapter to like what from last week's, but I do like that we're finally getting tackled this though.
I knew Anima wasn't gonna have it either. I knew Anima wasn't gonna have it either, so yeah, it was kind of just down to Soji and
yeah. On one hand, I admit, like I said earlier, I would have preferred if we had a bit more time learning about him and all that stuff, or at least getting more hints about his character. But yeah, but I do like how the one that kind of got like the sort of Kakashi like mask on, if you will, ends up actually getting it unmasked in the actual series, and it's been done for this moment. So yeah.
Yep.
I'm trying to think what else, but yeah. But yeah, I do like the fact that we got an idea about what this battle is for and who's actually in this one and the theme of it and all that stuff, which arguably seems to be controversial because people are probably not sure what is Koei trying to say with the politics here.
Probably not too much, but he likes to add them in there for whatever reason.
To be fair, I think most storytellers do rather they realize it or not, end up writing their own even be in the face or subtle political commentary surrounding the current times and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I just think it's just been a bit more obvious in recent years. But yeah. Now, granted, given the fact that we've actually seen this fight, it does make me hope that at some point we're going to see some of the other fights that have been shown. Though I'm looking at you, Uraraka versus and Tsuyu versus Uraraka and Tsuyu versus Toga.
Yeah, it's going to take a while for that one.
Yeah. So, okay, Koei, if you're doing this fight, you sure as hope that you're doing that fight. Otherwise, I feel like we'll be in another sort of like a Mufune versus Hanzo situation when you could have had all these other kind of fights. So yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, correct. And yes, I know I'm bringing up Naruto again, like you mentioned in the last stream, but then again, we just recently had a Naruto stream, so spare me. Yeah. But anyway, well, sorry, what?
I said I won't. I won't spare you at all.
I figured. So, overall, how would you score this Mangareader?
7, maybe 6.5. Worse. It's nothing great, nothing bad. I like. I don't know. There's a lot to. It's not a lot to take in, but it's something, I guess.
Fair enough. I think for myself, I'll probably give it like an 8 out of 10, just because because of the X-Men like commentary and the X-Men like references and commentary on political commentary, I guess. Not saying that I just like stuff for politics, but I do kind of like the themes of it. Or like the themes they go. Like on one side you have like in many ways, because I do feel like this kind of makes the conflict a bit more morally grey rather than black and white.
Yeah.
Because on one hand you have like heroes and all that stuff, but on the other hand you have villains that do have gripes with the way modern world society has treated them, and you can even probably be a bit sympathetic to their cause.
You
Some
very well could be. Yep.
it's like due to their appearance, they end up being all that stuff. They end up being prejudiced and even killed. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to mention: the fact that they did Star Wars references to Order 66. I wasn't sure if Corey liked the prequel movies, but at the very least, it seems he likes Revenge of the Sith. If he's bringing those ones up, at least I hope he.
There was Order 66 in there somewhere.
Yeah, when they talked when when the lieutenant talked about the sort of prejudice and all that stuff.
And I saw someone mention something like that, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, about
I didn't really see it, but yeah, there's a lot of Star Wars referencing in here too.
Yeah, let's see, Order 66 and the Great Jedi Purge.
Yep.
But yeah. But yeah. Let's see. I will admit, from what I've seen on the Wikipedia, apparently, anti-Jedi sentimentalism is apparently a commentary. Is apparently based off of, actual anti-Semitism in real life and all that stuff. Though I could be wrong, but I know there's a Wikipedia page on it. If you look at the Star Wars wiki page, you could probably find that. But yeah. But I definitely say, but the themes here make the Gritty as arguably a sort of a bit of a black and white conflict, a bit more grey, if you will. So I do kind of like how that's been tackled. Granted, I will admit, I wish it was tackled a bit earlier and a bit more build-up towards it, but yeah. And Corey is finally given development to two members of Class 1A that haven't really gotten much development, really.
I understand you.
Yeah. I mean, better later than never, I guess, given the fact that other mangas have left their side characters in the dust. So, yeah.
Right.
And on one hand, and I suppose it's best to have these characters than rather just have some new, no-named ones that we barely know much about, but at least will be barely seen, if you will. So, yeah.
Gotcha.
And you're just agreeing with everything I'm saying right now, aren't you?
Well, I mean, you're just drawing this out for no reason now. At this point, it feels like.
Yeah, you're right. I am at this point. So, anyway, Margarita, thank you for not joining me for not one but two streams today.
Thank you for not joining me. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for.
Yeah, I know. You followed it up. I heard originally was like, "Thank you for not following."
Yeah, you probably.
You're right. I didn't join you.
Yeah, you did join me for two streams.
I know. I know how you worded it, and I'm like, all right, I understand.
Yeah, but yeah, let's see, not one but two.
But
yeah. So let's see. Let's see. Now, granted, let's see, and I look forward to seeing you again for the next My Hero Academia review. Yes. When you're able to do it, and when I have a time that's able to do it. Though, granted, it seems like Saturdays seem to be the best time to do these right now.
For you, great, whatever. I'm not off on every single Saturday.
But yeah, well, Saturday seems to be, but I guess maybe, I don't know. Let's see, I guess it depends on, let's see, it seems to rotate between Thursday and Saturday, really, our reviews.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Let's see. Though, if we could get a Wednesday in there, I'd probably be happy with that as well.
Would you really?
But it's mostly going to be Thursday and Saturdays, it seems. But whether or not we do this chapter, the chapter's coming out next week, or we wait like 2 or 3 chapters, again, we'll have to wait and see. But for now, I am Blue Star Saber.
I'm Mangareader.
And we are now signing off. Plus Ultra, everyone.
Plus Ultra.
And with that, goodbye.